Defining and identifying ritual crime can be difficult due to the many meanings that can be attached to these seemingly simple words. A ritual can range from a mundane, personal and private event to a highly visible public ceremony. To clarify what a ritual is, we can look at different professional interpretations of human life. Anthropologists define a ritual as set patterns expressed as shared meaning through symbols. Psychologists define a ritual as a form of compulsion and obsession. Sociologists argue that rituals can include initiation, sacrifice, healing, protection, and worships of gods and ancestors. Some of these can be transgressive. It is in this area of transgressive behaviour that rituals can become twisted and therefore criminal. In the next few paragraphs, we are going to look at what form this perverse application of human needs and religious beliefs can take. Sacrifice in Latin means to make holy. Different reasons behind the act of sacrifice include to give thanks, to pay homage, or to remove evil. An example of sacrifice to remove evil can be seen in the Salem witch trials of the 16th century in America. The traditional church authorities stigmatized many women who were simply guilty of performing midwifery skills. This prejudice whipped up moral panic into believing that these women had become unchristian and devil worshippers. Many women, men, and even children were tortured to extract confessions. They were weighted down and thrown into rivers with the belief that if they drowned, they were innocent. These trials can be seen as ritualistic abuse in a sense that the persecution of women became an obsession for the male-dominated religion. Their overwhelming desire to dominate these women led to a twisted abuse of Christian rituals. Another warped example of ritual crime is the persecution of albinos in many places in Africa. There is a recurring superstition that albino body parts hold magical powers. Some witch doctors use these organs in aid of healing. Recent statistics show that within the continent of Africa in 2014 there were 129 killings and 181 other attacks. Recently, a 5-year-old girl in Burundi was kidnapped from her home by gunmen and later found dismembered with one of her arms missing. Police in news reports stated that the child's death was most likely caused by the belief that albino body parts are vital in witchcraft rituals. Although in recent years, action against the killings of albinos has included the President of Tanzania publicly condemning witch doctors and the United Nations publishing reports saying the persecution goes against human rights, this latest case illustrates that the perverted practice still exists. Human sacrifice, a belief in demonic possession and magical healing, is not just found in less developed countries, but has also been reported in many Western countries. In England in 2000, Victoria Kalimbi was beaten to death by her aunt and her aunt's boyfriend. They believed that Victoria was a witch and was possessed. The prolonged and vicious abuse that left Victoria with 128 separate injuries and scars was the result of her guardians trying to beat the devil out of her. The case raised many issues when it came to light. The working procedures of police, social services and the NHS were all examined by a public inquiry. The setting up of Every Child Matters initiative by the government in 2003 was at least in part due to the extreme case of child abuse driven by warped religious beliefs. One of the difficulties in analysing ritual crime is that the abuse often happens in the private sphere of the family or within close-knit communities and frequently associated with occult religions with a strong belief in magic and spiritualism. The abuse is given a context of approval with a worldview that sees witchcraft and demonic possession as real and present. The murder of Christy Bellemew in 2010 reveals how these beliefs can lead to a horrific torture and death. Christy was found dead in the bathroom at the home of his sister. He had been repeatedly tortured by his older sibling and her boyfriend. Himself, originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, had grown up with a strong belief in witchcraft, or Kindoki in Congolese. According to Thomas Bikebi, executive director of the Congolese Family Centre, for some believers, once the presence of evil spirits has been confirmed, often but not always by a pastor, the punishment was seen to be imposed on the spirit, not on the child. When you force the child to fast, people believe you are starving the spirit, not the child. When you beat, you are beating the spirit. As a result of this, Bikebi pointed out that there are people within the community who will say that this pair did the right thing, they killed a witch. A consequence of the normalising of extreme practices is that abuse is often underreported and consequently there is a lack of official statistics. The Met Police created Project Violet in 2005 to help create awareness of ritual crime within the UK, but it can be argued that this type of abuse is hidden in the shadows of today's society, and the few crimes that have been identified by the police are just the tip of the iceberg. Deputy Superintendent Terry Sharp, who is the head of Scotland Yard's Child Abuse Investigation Unit, said, "The Met has done a great deal of work to understand and deal with belief-based child abuse, including witchcraft and spirit possession. However, this is a hidden and underreported crime and therefore difficult to deal with in terms of protecting potential victims from harm. This suggests that the seemingly old practice of sacrificial rituals is still current in today's society. It is perhaps only through raising awareness within communities and throughout society that these practices are in fact abused that change will happen." A widely recognised example of this attempt to engage with these areas of abusive practices is with female genital mutilation. An estimated 66,000 girls and women have been victims of FGM in the UK. This ritual is commonly practiced on African girls as a way of making them pure and clean for their future husbands. This practice is illegal in the UK, and it is also illegal to take a British national or permanent resident out of the country to perform the circumcision. One can get up to 14 years in prison to take part or even help in FGM. According to ActionAid, the key to eradicating this abuse is education. They say it is a vital tool to help unpick traditional cultural and religious reasons for subjecting girls to be cut. Women are at the centre of our work, but to end FGM we need whole communities to say no, so including men is essential. FGM highlights the simple truth that is only through confronting and challenging belief systems that we can hope to change the behaviour of those that condone and hide abusive practices. Ritual crimes can only continue when twisted versions of reality are allowed to spread in the hidden corners of society. A form of ritual killing that is not associated with a cult religion or a broad-based belief system is serial killing. It has been argued that the sexual fantasies of some serial killers result in ritual being performed before committing a murder. Douglas and Mann argued that rituals may evolve over time and with each murder due to the killer becoming more driven by their fantasy. But the theme of the rituals will stay the same throughout each murder. The rituals of serial killers may become such an obsessional need that it can be the very reason the killer is caught. This is due to each killer's fantasies being unique. An example of ritualistic serial killing is Dennis Nielsen, who killed and dismembered 15 young men from 1978 to 1983. After being caught, Nielsen stated that it was the traumatizing death of his beloved grandfather that was the reason behind his behavioral psychopathology. When Dennis was a young man, he joined the army as a butcher as a way of ignoring his homosexuality. This resulted in him having a lonely life, as he could not accept who he was. It has been argued that Nielsen killed over his fear of abandonment. He would then engage in a ritual of fulfilling his sexual fantasies on the body, and then hiding that body in his apartment to keep him company. Nielsen was caught after a drain specialist went to fix a blockage in his apartment block, and human remains were found. These were the remains that Nielsen had tried to dispose of. As we have seen, ritual crime can take many forms, from the beliefs of occult religions to the twisted fantasies of an individual. Ritual crimes are somewhat hidden from the world, as only the insiders of the group are privy to the group's most brutal crimes, whereas the police, government and media are only aware of a few cases that have been brought out into the open. Through looking at the different interpretations of a ritual, we can broaden our understanding of how and why ritual crimes take place. This will then help us understand or decide if rituals are part of our human nature, or if those who partake in them should be deemed as transgressive.